Hello, nonverbal communication students. It's Dr. Ivy again. It's a Tuesday when I'm recording this. It's Blues Day Tuesday. So I'm representing with my favorite Islanders t shirt on. And so it's funny because I'm wearing a t shirt and I'm talking about professional nonverbal cues. So I don't look all that professional today, but I think you'll let me slide, right? Because I am representing my job in our university. So there you go. That's what we'll do. So we are now on chapter 11. Can you believe it? All the way to chapter 11. Chapter 11 has two sections in it. It first deals with nonverbal communication in professional settings. The last part of the chapter is nonverbal communication in educational settings, and I will take that up with you in a later video. Today, I'm just talking about nonverbal on the job. Now, like most of these videos, most of these things that I've talked about, this pandemic situation that we are still in, that began 2020 or maybe 2019, depending on who you listen to and what you believe, but we think of the pandemic as kind of covering up most of 2020. It's kind of hard now to remember when we weren't living with all of this. So there are some things in the book, in this chapter, as in many others, that are a little out of step with the current times we're living in, like facial expressions. It's hard to have a lot of facial expressions when you're wearing a mask most of the time. Dr. Fauci said he thought maybe the professional handshake or any kind of handshake should go away. I understand his reasoning for that, but I hope it doesn't. It's long been a greeting ritual in this country, as in many other countries around the world. So I am kind of disturbed by the thought that the handshake, particularly in professional settings, will go away. It's a very powerful nonverbal cue. It tells you a lot about somebody if you're considering hiring somebody or you're considering working for somebody. That handshake is a powerful cue. We know that touch is the most powerful of all the nonverbal cues and also the most misunderstood. It's the most fraught. And so the professional handshake is bodies coming into contact. It is touch. And so we got to think about these things, but I don't know how much the culture should change because of what's going on in 2020 and will be happening in 2021. We all need to maybe ponder that a little bit. Something to think about, maybe talk about with our friends and family. So, nonverbal communication is incredibly important. It's very connected to judgments of you as a professional. A lot of you are already working. Maybe you are working career type jobs and you're just finishing up your degree. Some of you may be in our university's BASS program, the Bachelor of Arts and Applied Sciences. A lot of y'all are in that. Very good program. Some of y'all are working, part-time jobs or full-time jobs, but they're not those career type jobs. They're, paying the bills and giving you some work to do and helping you gain experience, but maybe they're not those career kind of jobs. So I'm talking more specifically about the bigger career jobs, maybe the more important jobs, although many of these things apply to just, if you apply to a restaurant to wait tables or, clean pools or a lot of different things that students may be doing and working on campus as well. We look at this in terms of nonverbal cues for getting the job and then rising up in the job, and we look at some leadership, nonverbal cues associated with leadership. Probably for most of you, the getting the job information is going to be most pertinent, and so I want to hit that pretty hard. We talk about nonverbal communication in direct and indirect ways. Indirect and direct nonverbal communication. The direct nonverbal communication is all those things we've been studying this semester just applied to the professional context. So the direct nonverbal communication that you might do in a job interview, eye contact, physical appearance, dress, clothing, all of those things, facial expressions, touch, which I've already mentioned, we don't know how that's going to go, but certainly kinesics in terms of your posture, your sitting behavior. Many of you, not just because of pandemic times, but many of you will do web-based virtual interviews. Your interview will not be face-to-face. This has been happening for a long time. It is an efficient, economical way for companies and organizations to sort of screen applicants. before they might spend the expense of you coming to where they are, particularly if you have to travel for that, and doing a face-to-face interview. Here at the university, when we hire new faculty members, we typically do the paper. We look at all the paper stuff. I mean, it comes electronically, but we look at their records and their letter of application and all of that. Usually we whittle that down to the people who are probably the best fit for what we actually need. And then we get a short list and we do telephone interviews. We've done that the whole 20 plus years that I've been here. We do phone interviews. Some of you may do a phone interview. And so that's a challenge because so many of the nonverbal channels are gone and really all you have is the voice. And so it's particularly hard to kind of break through the pack, on a phone interview. But you need to be really prepared for them, and you need to be awake and having your voice really doing everything it can do for you. Use a lot of vocal variety. If you are on a phone interview and you have a very monotone sound, that is probably not going to impress. And so you want to work on how you sound. You want to work on sounding friendly, but sounding competent, being able to answer questions without a lot of pauses or stumbling over words. Those disfluencies can hurt a telephone interview. But so those are some of the direct nonverbal communication things that happen, whether it's a phone interview or maybe a virtual interview. Some of you will be doing this, or if you get to do those face-to-face interviews, and some of you will continue to do that. That's where those nonverbals are going to be compromised if you interview anytime soon, meaning while the pandemic's going on, because you will have to be distanced from people. They will be in masks, you will be in masks. If they're respectful people, they'll all be in masks. Masks are not political. I'm sorry, I'm so over it. We wear masks to protect ourselves and to protect others and as a sign of respect. So if you have a face-to-face interview, it might look a lot different than you thought it was going to even a year or 2 years ago. So think about that. Think about your nonverbals. Think about your physical appearance and your clothing. The best guideline here still is to go pretty conservative. Not too many bright colors or patterns. Don't wear your silly Tabasco tie. I know some people who have a Tabasco tie, the little cutesy ties. If you interview in December, I wouldn't wear any Christmas-themed clothing or any Hanukkah-themed clothing or pins or jewelry or whatever. There's all kinds of things connected with physical appearance that could bias your chances, that could trigger somebody to view you negatively. And we just don't know where those biases are. So better to say pretty neutral. There's a lot of sources on, Dress for Success. Here in town, in Corpus Christi, I've heard wonderful things about Men's Warehouse, and that they really do work with college students who are on a limited budget to try to stretch some of your interviewing clothing. Women, J.C. Penney actually has worked very well with the university and with our students. There's also a program in town called Dress for Success where people donate gently used clothing or never used clothing. And so sometimes they work with our students to provide clothing at either no charge or very, very low charge. Be smart about your birthday presents, or if you got a Christmas list or a Hanukkah gift list or whatever. Those, even graduation gifts, be really strategic about that. Ask people either for gift cards to a certain place. Maybe they can get you a nice leather-bound portfolio. You do not want to take a book bag into a job interview. Most of y'all know that. But you need a place that looks professional to maybe carry your stuff. And so you might want to target your gifts in terms of professional clothing and accessories that will help you look at your best at the job interview. Be careful about makeup. Men and women both wear makeup, women more than men generally. Be careful not to have it be too dramatic. You want to think about your jewelry choices. You want to think about your hairstyles. And I hate, it's sort of unfair that all these things matter, but these things matter. That's the world we live in. So kind of go conservatively for the job interview rather than feeling like you need a full expression of your unique personality. Save that till you get the job. I'm not saying fake it. I'm just saying you don't have the job yet. Don't dress like the people dress who already have those jobs. If you interview at a tech place, they're probably going to be pretty casual. You don't have that job yet. Don't dress like they dress. Dress higher, more professional, more consistent to win the job. More conservative is the word in it, to win the job. And then once you have the job, maybe you can adjust a little bit and fit in with your clothing and your physical appearance. But you don't have this job yet. So you're selling yourself. They are selling themselves to you too. So don't think that you're the only one who's selling here. They're trying to persuade you that they're a good place to work and good people to work with. And so you want to think about that too. So that is some of the direct nonverbal cues. Think about how you sit. When you pick out your interview outfit or outfits, sit down in them before you buy them. This is particularly the case for women. For women, we still feel like professional clothing, certainly pantsuits or a jacket and pants that coordinate are much more acceptable than they used to be. But a skirt and a professional looking suit, conservative colors, even though it's a different world and we're in Texas or if you're in a hotter climate, it still is kind of the norm to wear some kind of hosiery. And I can't tell you the last time I had a pair of hose on, but it was probably a job interview. It was probably here. But you may want to think about those kind of choices. So I don't want to stress that too much. The indirect nonverbal communication starts in our textbook on page 388. These are things that you might not think of, but they are so important with the job interview. These are things like the look of your resume. You can always send me a resume as an email attachment, and I will look at it and send you right back. The look of the resume, the quality of the paper, the quality of the ink, the white space, the way it's organized so an employer can very quickly look at the resume. You don't want a resume that's full of paragraphs and very wordy and that taxes somebody to read it because they probably won't, and you might blow the whole job interview with that. You want to think about letters of application. You want to think about your electronic submission. Do you have to submit a portfolio? You do want to clean up your social media because employers have a way of finding things out on social media. And so if you got any party pics of you with a red Solo cup looking like you're having a great time, get that off of your social media because employers can find things out. They have amazing ways of finding things. So just look at, misspellings, things like on the resume, the cover letter. It is important to send a thank you note after. A thank you email is very cheap and easy and quick. And so I understand it, and I'll take it if that's all I get. But the handwritten note through the mail still carries more weight. So think about these indirect forms of nonverbal communication. I'm going to close right there and come back to you with a little bit more information from chapter 11. I just don't want this video to get too long. So take care, nonverbal students at A&M Corpus Christi. Y'all are the best.